Hello, welcome to Round Glass. My name is Alex Maizuss. Thank you for joining me. So today we are on our fourth session of Mind, the Perpetual Storyteller. And our subject for today is going to be swapping stories. So we've been talking a lot about story and the mind creating stories. And every session I repeat the same thing, that there's nothing wrong with the story. So it's not the enemy, but we just want to make sure that we notice the stories that are helpful and the stories that are not helpful. So we call this a limiting story. So in performance, we usually have a limiting performance story or a self-enhancing performance story. So today we're going to focus on I like to say swapping the stories, even though it's not 100% swapping them, but it's about having more information so that we can come up with the stories that are more supportive. But that's what we'll be talking about today. So creating space for a more spacious and a more self-enhancing story. So this kind of goes along the lines of going from limiting to limitless. And if you have a chance to look at our last session, I talked a little bit about my own story and how I went from limiting to limitless, and how that allowed me to kind of achieve a lot of really big dreams that I had in my life. So if you haven't watched that, you can go ahead and review that as well. But with this swapping stories, the idea is that we can understand our own resources, and for you to really know that the power lies within yourself. And so a lot of the times we tell ourselves this, what we think is an enhancing story, but we're not believing it. It's just words that are coming up, and then we're noticing, why is it that I'm not able to take the next chance? Why is it that I'm not able to do this things that I want to do? So really tapping into the power within, and that's what we're going to be doing today. And something that I hear constantly in my work with athletes is that most athletes, and I think just in general, I believe anybody that reaches peak performance, I hear the same thing over and over, and that's that by failing over and over, they achieve success. And so see how they just were able to actually take something that we're so hard on ourselves, such as failure, right? When we can't do something right, or, we create this story, we're not good at it. And if we fail at something, sometimes that prevents us from trying again. But these peak performers actually have a very different view, and we can learn from them quite a bit, because they actually take even failure as a road, as a way, a path to success. So that's something that I wanted to share with you today. And again, we are making room. That's all we're doing, making room for a new story. And how do we do that? So that's a tricky thing, because as I'm saying, the power lies within yourself. It does. Because how we're going to do this is by tapping into our own inner strengths. And our own inner strengths are all those things that we are kind of known for, that people admire in us, that we can learn to admire in ourselves. We also did a little bit of that in our last session. So tuning into yourself, noticing, what are some strengths that I have? What am I actually good at? What are some things that allow me to go through the difficult moments in life? And by now, most likely, we've all had at least one or two very difficult moments in life. And so as we tap into that, you can kind of notice, what is it that allowed me to make it through? What are these strengths that I have that hold me? So this is the focus on today's story, and in today's session. But I wanted to share, as I say, that a story comes to mind about me being about a long time ago, me being about 12 or 13, and I was still living in Peru in South America, and I wanted to be part of the volleyball team, like, the country's volleyball team. That was a pretty ambitious thing to do as a 12-year-old, I think. And I decided to take part in this rigorous training that they go through in order to qualify for the team. And we start very young. So as I was doing this in my early years, when I was 12, and I did for a couple of years, something that I learned was that something that most of my coaches actually shared, and what they would always say is that it's not those who are great at volleyball that will make the team, they would say, but it's those of us who actually know how to use our strengths to support us and guide us. So it's not really about, they were making it really emphasize it's not about you being good at volleyball. So if you have the story that you're not good at volleyball, forget that, because that's only going to get you here to the training. It's going to make you really become part of the team. It's going to be, what strengths do you have that are different than everybody else? And how do you utilize those strengths? So as I was part of this training, and it was pretty rigorous, very hard training. I knew that, I wasn't really a very active kid ever. I just had this dream that I wanted to be in the team. But there were some things that I knew I had. Of course, there were some things that worked for me. I was tall enough, I was strong enough, I could do it. But that wasn't enough. What really got me through the training is that I had dedication. So that was a strength of mine. I was dedicated to making it. I was dedicated to actually do the training and work really hard at it. So I had discipline as well. And we needed discipline to be able to show up for our trainings. We needed the time aside from everything else. Being 12, 13, I'd rather go to the mall with my friends, but I had to actually train. So there was that discipline that I had. And again, the willingness to work hard. Those were my strengths, and there still are. And in this session, I want to invite you to really, maybe we'll just take one moment to maybe taking a deep breath and just bringing to mind, what are some of the strengths that you're known for? And we're going to do a practice in which we'll be tapping more into that. But I'm just curious right now if you can just take in a deep breath just for yourself and just tune into, what are some things that others know you from? What are some of these strengths? Maybe you, again, just like me, have incredible discipline. Maybe you're a very hard worker. So just taking a moment. Thank you for doing that. And so as we focus on this, on this inner strengths, which is something that we have in us, right? Something, and this is what life gives us, right? When life is hard, we start to develop in these core strengths. These core strengths serve us later. And so it's really important for us to kind of tune into them and kind of see how to utilize them when we actually need them. And not waiting for things to be difficult, but really enhancing our life through them. So I think another very important way of tuning into these strengths, and really helpful practice, could be by tuning into the strengths of others. And this could be admiring really what others' strengths are. And maybe it won't be, maybe it won't be the person next to you, but might be somebody that you really truly admire. Just tune into that and notice, what is it about this person that you admire? What is it about this? What qualities do they have? So tuning into that could be pretty interesting, because as I was saying in the past session, I was actually talking about how the mind has the bias to go into negative, and so the comparing mind comes into play in this moment. But if we actually admire the strengths that we actually feel, that we actually tune into, I'm not good, that person is great. If we admire that, then we're kind of absorbing that as our own as well. Because remember that we cannot see the beauty in others unless we see it in ourselves. So whatever we see in others, we're actually seeing in ourselves as well. So when you see the strengths in another, you're actually acknowledging the strength in you as well. So this is just a little practice that can be really helpful. So I'm going to invite you again to, enough of stories. I'm going to invite you to just settle in. And again, you can settle cross-legged, you can sit or lie down. Whatever works for you is fine. As long as your body is supported, and as long as you are alert during the practice. So this is more about being awake than falling asleep. So remember that. There's always a tendency sometimes to get really comfy and kind of fall asleep during meditations. So make sure that you prop yourself up a little bit if you're tired. So I'll give you just a couple of moments to do that while I actually adjust my own pose here. Making sure that the back is straight so that you can have the flow of air coming and going. And just allowing for a sense of presence. And by that, I mean really arriving here at this moment. Just becoming aware of where you are, becoming aware of your surroundings. And again, you can close your eyes or you can just lower the gaze. Whatever works for you is fine. Maybe we can get started by just taking in a deep breath, allowing yourself to settle into the moment. Then just exhaling long. And again, you're just breathing to your own lung capacity. So taking a breath deeper than normal and then exhaling long, feeling the breath in the body. Noticing how the body kind of settles in here in some way, and allowing the mind to just settle in the body, allowing your attention to rest on your breath. And then just noticing any tension that might be here. And as you notice the tension or the tightness, seeing if you can just allow it to just stay if it wants to stay, or maybe just softening around it. And if there's a lot in the mind right now, the mind is busy planning, what we call doing, even though it only happens in the mind. Just noticing that. And there's no right or wrong way of doing this. If you're here and you're paying attention, you're doing this perfectly. So in your next exhalation, just allowing the body to settle here into the surface holding you, the cushion or the chair. Allowing the body to breathe normally. Always remembering that it doesn't need any help from us. It's the beauty of the body. It breathes all on its own. Settling in the moment. Welcoming yourself exactly as you are. There's nothing to do right now. There's nowhere to go than just being here. And whenever you notice the mind getting distracted, noticing the stories it tells, you can just smile at it because that means that you're actually paying attention and this is a mindful moment. So every time you catch yourself in a story, every time you catch yourself away from the moment, that is a mindful moment. You're actually aware, you're paying attention. So just smilingly bringing your attention right back to this body, sitting here or lying here or even standing here, honoring your pose, honoring this time. Gently holding your attention right here. And as you settle into this moment, into this stillness, I'd like to invite you to bring into mind somebody you admire. This doesn't have to be somebody that you know personally, it could be somebody that is a public figure, a superhero. And as you do this, just recognizing some strengths that this person might have. Perhaps you admire their honesty, their work ethic, their kindness, or anything else that you might admire in this person. For me, sometimes that could be directness, being direct, expressing themselves. So just noticing what comes up as you think about this person and things that you might admire about them. And now you might want to invite into mind somebody that you consider a friend, somebody that might be friendly. Maybe doesn't have to be the closest person to you, but maybe somebody that's friendly with you and that you consider a friend. And just noticing the same. What are some qualities about this friend that you admire? And now, as you do this, maybe tuning into your own self. What are some things that you admire about yourself? What are some strengths? Perhaps it might be easier to remember a time in your life in which these strengths came into being. It could be a test in school, work ethic at work, working hard to getting that promotion, practicing really hard to make it into a team. So tapping now into your own strengths, that powerful source within yourself. And so as you gather your strengths, really noticing what they feel like. What does it feel like when you tap into one of those strengths? Tapping in this way to your own power. And again, this takes practice. So if maybe just one thing comes up or nothing right now, that's okay too. The more you practice, the more you can tap into this inner, limitless resource of strengths that you have. Because if you're here and you're alive, you already have a good set of strengths that guided you all the way to this moment. And now I'd like to invite you to tap into your inner imagination. And this is not about visualizing. So if the story of I'm not a good visualizer comes up, just notice the story. This is more about pretending. So let's pretend that you have that challenging performance coming up. Whatever it is, conversation with the boss, promotion, training hard for something. So just bringing up to mind maybe a performance that brings up the story of I cannot do, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at that or this. Just notice what happens as the story comes up. And things that you might notice again are a little bit of anxiety, even fear. All these things are normal. They come up as the stories play, they go hand in hand. So do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Taking a deep breath, opening your eyes is always good. Shifting your pose. If you are with me, just taking in a deep breath into this performance scenario. And now seeing what strengths from your little strength list, from little toolkit here, strengths you have that you can actually utilize right now in this moment that you can call for. And again, just tapping into your inner power here. And just recognizing the strengths I can carry you over in this particular scenario. Getting away a little bit into the story, from the story, sorry, getting away a little bit from the story. And allowing yourself to just be empowered by this strength. As I was saying, the best performers, they don't become the best by just having a good skill. They become the best because they can tap into all their inner strengths and power. Being good at something doesn't necessarily mean that you will achieve peak performance. We also need dedication, we need discipline, we need courage, openness. So just seeing what comes up for you, just for a moment. And if you're noticing any tension or tightness, see if you can just stay with this, maybe taking a deep breath, knowing that you got what it takes. That you are an incredible, resourceful being. And if you made it this far, you will make it even farther. So tapping into your limitless potential. And as you do this now, you can kind of take in a deep breath. This is a practice. So taking in a deep breath, allowing any tension to soften, bringing your attention to your feet. As we close our session together, maybe wiggling the toes, stretching the body a little bit. Your eyes are closed. I invite you to open your eyes if that feels okay for you, or you can just stay your eyes closed, savoring this moment. I'd like to thank you so much for being here today, for your practice. I'd like to thank you for your curiosity into your own story and for your willingness to try something new. So please do follow me on my profile if you'd like to join me again to see when I'm coming on next, coming live again. And until then, just stay well, stay healthy, stay present. Thank you.